favorite programs, and I think really useful programs for our community, because we're really bringing in some really great community leaders, and that's driving the direction of our community. And so we're glad that you're here to be a part of that. We have some incredible events coming up. I'll highlight them at the end of the program today. But I did want to make a note that this is for this year. We always take off November and December for this program. So this will be the final one for 2021, and we're excited to again have robust programming in 2022 for the Marana Insights program. We do have other chamber events happening those 2 months, so please check those out. One of which is the Workforce Development Forum. That is November 18th. I see Mike in the back, one of our panelists in the employer recruitment and retention space. We have 2 dynamic panels for that, talent pipeline as well as employer recruitment and retention, and then 2 overviews from some community leaders from Pima One Stop as well as MHC Healthcare Behavioral Health Sciences. So we hope that you'll be a part of that. And we have George Kennedy, who's moderating our talent pipeline conversation with us today. So thank you for being here, George, and we'll hope you'll check out that program November 18th. It's a luncheon at the Highlands at Dove Mountain. So with that, thank you again for being here. I would like to introduce Jenny Huffman, who is our fearless moderator, a constant voice on this incredible program. So thank you, Jenny.
All right, thank you, Amanda. So since this is our last one, I'm so happy to see the room is like almost full. This is awesome. So what we'll do is, as we usually do, we'll go around the room and introduce yourself and your company. And my name is Jenny Huffman. I'm broker owner of Imagine Realty Services. And if we want to start here with our Mike, cinematographer. And
Mike Ian, owner of True Fan Marketing, doing stuff like this and
Thanks, Mike.
Jeff Head with Tucson Association of Realtors. Good morning.
I'm Debbie Morton. I'm a resident. Betty Kobe with the Golden Girls of Long Realty. I'm on the board for the Marana Chamber. Barb Hempel with the Town of Marana, Airport Manager.
Will Williams with UESI.
I'm Jared Berman with Potable.
I'm Dustin McClure with Keep It Up Artificial Turf Care Services.
George Kennedy, I'm an author and I'm the chair of the Economic Development Committee.
Sally Edwards, a volunteer with Reclamation.
Tammy McElroy with the Miranda Chamber. Rebecca, Miranda Chamber.
I'm Lisa Lindquist, I'm with Potable Banker Realty.
Peggy Mackey Craig, I'm with Potable Banker Realty.
Good morning, I'm Berta Melissa Seaver, I'm with Trico Electric Cooperative, and I'm on the Miranda Chamber board also.
Good morning, I'm Kim Rodriguez. I'm with the Money Group.
Good morning, Madam Pina, with Financial Advisor with Edward Jones.
Morning, I'm Mitch Pisevsky with Central Arizona Project. I'm Kyle Canty, Northwest Fires.
Yeah, good morning. I'm Steve Ian, the Water Deputy Director for Town of Marana.
And I'm Jesse Schultz, engineer for the Water Department.
Ryan Hancock, Trico Electric Cooperative.
My name is Mike Goodwin. I head up operations and service for a company called Reclamation.
And Beth.
Working with the Interfaith Community Services.
Okay, great. Welcome and thank you everyone for being here. So we're going to kind of go a little bit off the agenda. So our first speaker today is going to be Jing Liu, Water Director for the Town of Marana. So you take it away.
Just introduce myself. My name is Jing Liu. I'm the new Miranda Water Director. So I started my job. I'm very excited to be here, and thank you so much for the invitation. And thank you for the group. This is such a big group that larger than I anticipated, but awesome. And I heard the introduction. You know, everybody coming from a different background, and you are the reason that Marana is awesome, right? You guys are awesome. So let me get started. Water is our business, obviously, right? Marana water is our business. So we have primarily we have 4 areas of the business, including water system operations, water reclamation operations, water resources management, and water business management. So we operate over $53 million worth of water infrastructure, and we have over $80 million million wastewater infrastructure. In our 5-year capital improvement program, we have identified over $36 million water infrastructure improvement projects and $46 million water reclamation improvement projects. So we have a lot of work to do. Our system is growing. One of the biggest challenge at Marana Water is to meet increasing water demand due to fast-growing community. So from this chart, you can see that our system, our customer base increases rapidly. In calendar year 2019, there was an increase for water system. There was an increase of 7.2%. And in calendar year 20, there was a 7.5% increase. And as of this year, year to date, 2020 didn't happen. So COVID is just set us off track. But anyhow, today is, this year is 2021. So so far we have seen a 5.2% increase. So our water customer, as of July 2021, we have 9,549 connections to our water system, and just in this current calendar year, we have added 499 new connections. In fiscal year, make sure I get it right, it's a calendar year versus fiscal year. In fiscal year 2020, we delivered 863 million gallon water to our customers, and the number increased to 935 million gallon in fiscal year 2021. So that's how fast our system growing. So is a wastewater system, water reclamation system. In calendar year 2019, we had an 8.5% increase. Calendar year 2020, 11.2%, and this year, current year to date, 9.3%. Total water reclamation customers, we have as of July 2021. It is important to say as of a date because the number changes so rapidly. 5,412 connections, and in this current calendar year, we added 500 new connections, and then the total amount of wastewater treated in fiscal year 2020, 289 million gallon, and then increased to 346 million gallon in the most recent fiscal year. This is our water system, and I have Stephen Dean sitting back there supporting me today, and he's the Deputy Director overseeing operations, both water and water reclamation operations. So I actually stole the slides, some slides from him. Water operations, water system. This is a map of our pipelines and infrastructure. So in the system, we have 2 water treatment campus, which just completed March 2021, just earlier this year. And we have a total, again, roughly 9,500 service connections, 170 miles of water mains, and 24 boost stations, and 18 storage tanks, and 22 active wells. So that's what we have so far. And these are the pictures of this brand new water treatment campus to treat PFAS and 1,4-dioxane. Those are emerging contaminants that has been in news for a while. And Town Marana actually made a decision. The town council is very forward-thinking that they made this very difficult decision. We went ahead build the treatment facility. Those are not EPA regulated, even though these 2 compounds are not currently EPA regulated. However, to protect the best, the health and the best interests of our ratepayers, and the town council decided and directed the water department. We went ahead and spent $16 million and build those 2 facilities. So far, it's running awfully good. So all the effluents, these 2 compounds in the effluent, both of them are non-decact. So we're very proud of it. And the water reclamation system, this is a map. So we have one water reclamation facility, treatment facility, and then 5,400 surface connections. It's a smaller system compared to our water system. 87 miles of sewer mains and 1,800 manholes, 3 recharge basins, and 3 lift stations. So this is a picture of our water reclamation facility. Was completed, I believe, in 2018. About. So yeah, this picture is just, I think it's almost done. It's just during construction. You know, that's the overview and the aerial photo of the new water reclamation facility. And recently, well, I'm give credit to Jesse back there, and he actually is the acting engineering manager for the department, and he spent a lot of time on these 2 infrastructure improvement plans. So we just recently completed, with help from our consultants, completed water infrastructure improvement plan and the water reclamation infrastructure improvement plan. So from water infrastructure improvement plan, we identified numerous projects to support current and future development. So yeah, that's basically a lot of need that you can see. I'm not going to go through each project, you know, truly don't want to bore you with all the details. And then just want to highlight 2 projects that, you know, in that long list of projects. This one is NERD, we call it NERD, it's a Northwest Recharge Recovery Distribution System project. So this project is interesting. Why? Because it's a joint effort of Marana Water and Metro Water and our Valley Water. So what does it do? It's basically, pump water from where we recharge. So in this part of the town, we're close to an airport. That's where we recharge. Lots of water being recharged here. So now we're building this system to take the water from groundwater where we recharge and pump it out and build a long, about 7 miles of water pipe and bring water to communities east of I-10, so to help provide water services there. So there's 3 components in this project. The first one is the pump stations and the well. I can see, does it work? Anyhow, so at the beginning of the system that we build pump stations and the wells to retrieve water from groundwater. And then the second piece is the long pipeline. And then the last piece is the pump station that 3 entities that we all build our own pump stations to take the water put into our individual distribution system. So Marana has one, and Metro Water has one, and our Valley has one. So it's all going to our existing system. So it's a very interesting project. Our portion, you know, Marana portion is $12 million for this all 3 pieces together. This is a map showing that the wastewater, the water reclamation project identified. So this is kind of more straightforward. We have identified like project numbers through 1 to 8, you know. So project 1, 2 are developer driven, so they're actually built by developers. And then 3 through 8, Town Marana will build those projects. So currently we are planning to, you know, we're in the planning phase. So the project actually managed by Town Marana CIP division under Public Works. So they're helping us to deliver this project. Currently we're doing a study, alignment study, and scoping. Use a consultant is just currently happening. After that, you know, our schedule showed that March next year, we hope to advertise this project as a design-build project. So with a total budget so far is $11 million. So water service areas, like I said, we love to serve more people. However, we only serve part of Marana. This blue area is our service area. We do have part of Marana, like down mountain and some areas in the south, currently served by Tucson Water. So we work with Tucson Water really closely. In order to develop, it's required by the state that you have to acquire a short water supply, right? So the designation of a short water supply in town Marana, we have a total of 75-80 acre feet of water. That is our total assured water supply. 31%, there are like 4 sources. Our water comes from 4 different sources. And 31% from CAP, which I see Mitch is back there, and he will tell you all the great stories about CAP. So 31% of our water comes from CAP, and 22% from reclaimed water, which I talked about earlier, the water treatment, water reclamation facility. We recharge the water, we reclaim the water. So 22% of our water resources from reclaimed water, and 45% from recharged groundwater. Why I said recharge, replenish the groundwater? Why do I say that? Because we do that through CAGRD, which is a water replenish district, that they help us to fulfill the requirement for replenishment. So 45% from groundwater. We do have a small percentage of our water come from long-term storage credit. People may ask, how we use this amount of water, right? How do we utilize the water? So again, this is another way to demonstrate, different water supplies, different water resources. We have 75-80. Currently, we're using in our system, we're using 2788 acre feet to deliver to our current customer. So that is how much water we use today, every day, going to houses and businesses. And we have committed 1988 acre feet per year. So this is the development that they have platted. So then we call it committed demand. We commit once the town sign the final plat, and that's when we commit our water resources. So we have this much committed. That leaves us 2,800 acre feet, equivalent to 93 EDUs for future development. So that is the current situation. How many of you guys have heard about Corolla River shortage, Tier 1? Almost everybody. So this is a big subject. It's been discussed, locally and statewide and nationally. So what does it mean? Why Tier 1, Tier 2, or 3? What does it mean, right? So it's tied to Lake Mead water level. So there was a drought contingency plan developed. So it's based on the water level in Lake Mead. When the water level reached to certain elevation, so it triggers a different level of shortage. So we have been Tier 1, Tier 0 many years, quite a long time. So, but just recent years, the Lake Mead water level dropped below 1,075 feet. So that triggers a Tier 1 water shortage. So what does it mean to Arizona? So Tier 1 water shortage basically will impact agriculture in Arizona tremendously. So under Tier 1 water shortage, there won't be any excess water from CAP, And then in Arizona, 65% of agricultural water use will be cut. So, and the good news is, okay, the 2 minutes. So let me hurry up. So we don't, this shortage, the tier 1 water shortage is not gonna impact any of our water supply because our CAP water is under the category of municipal and the industrial, so there's no impact to us. Very briefly, so because Marana is located in a very great location, so the great amount of water has been recharged in Ever Valley area, which is the dark blue. So this map showing the 18 years groundwater level changes. So yellow, kind of yellowish green, means that the groundwater level decreased over the years, and blue, light blue, dark blue showing the groundwater level increase. So as you can see, Marana is sitting in an area that because of the recharge, the physical location, so our groundwater level hardly decreased. So that's kind of assured us that we do have a significant amount of groundwater to serve the community in the future. I think this is that's the last slide, I believe. So water is a very precious resource, as you can see, right? So I got a question from community saying, what can we help? Yes, hopefully the community, I believe community trusts us to do the heavy lifting. However, can you help, right? What's the individuals and business owners, what can we help, right? So it's very important that we get the community support and we recognize the needs of conservation, the importance of conservation. So the department received a grant from ADWR earlier this year. We are rolling out a community-wide conservation program. This is the first step. So we call it the Citizens Water Academy. In this academy, we recruit 10 to 20 Marana Water customers, and we bring them in, and we have 4 to 6 weeks of educational program that we teach them water conservation measures and how we operate our system. So that's public education. We also install digital meters at the houses of the residents. So, and then the meter will record water consumption like every 15 minutes throughout the day for a week or two. So that data is very critical for us. So that's going to help us to decide what's the best measure for water conservation. So I'm assuming lots of you guys are in Marana Water Service area. Reach out to us and sign up to this program. So that's how you help. And meanwhile, water conservation, all the things you do at home, that will be a tremendous help. This is the last slide. And then we just had a community conversation meeting last night at the Highlands at Dome Mountain. So we have 3 more to come. This is a very simplified version, but if you're interested to know more information, get more details, please come to one of the community meetings. And we'd love to talk with you guys. We have many staff there to answer questions. And I probably use up all my time. No question, right? Thank you.
I'm going to switch the slides.
Okay. Thank you so much. That's very interesting because I've been following Marana Water for quite some time, and I knew about the rising aquifer west of the Tucson mountains because that's where my well is. So our next presenter is Mitch Bisefsky with the Central Arizona Project, and take it away.
So thank you very much. I'm with Central Arizona Project. I run the public affairs program for Pima and Pinal County. I've been a Tucsonan since 1979, so this is my community, and the water picture is very, very important always been an important thing living in a desert. It's just the picture is not very pretty going forward. So just a very brief overview. Central Arizona Project. It was created through an act of Congress in 1968. It took about 20 years to build. It stretches 336 miles from Lake Havasu up on the California-Arizona border, and it ends about 15 miles south of Tucson off of Pima Mine Road where the casino is, that area. We deliver normally more than 500 billion gallons of Colorado River water a year to our customers each year. They began in 1985. The construction was complete in 1993. And that water is lifted because it's about a 2,800 foot lift or so from Lake Havasu to Tucson. So the canal itself, the part you can see on the surface, runs by gravity. We run the canal as far as we can by gravity, and when we can no longer run it any further because of the topography, we built a pumping plant to lift the water straight up so it can run by gravity in the next section of canal. So we have 14 different pumping stations lifting that water along the way. There's several pumping stations that you can see out in Napa Valley. They're below grade, again, to stretch that flow by gravity as far as we can get it. But we do occasionally offer tours. We haven't been doing it, obviously, because of the COVID and everything, but in the years in the future, I'm hoping that we'll be able to do that again. This is who uses our CAP water. About 36% goes to municipal and industrial subcontractors. That includes the town of Marana. A number of cities and towns in the Maricopa County. Pinal County is primarily agricultural. They use the 15%. That's mostly in Pinal County. There's some down here. BKW Farms, the pecan orchards, FICO pecan orchards, and the Tohono O'odham and Pasquayaki both use some of their water for agriculture. Tribal, about 28% is now being used by tribes. In effect, tribes have access to about half the water we deliver, so about 250 billion gallons a year. They just can't use it all. They don't have enough infrastructure and enough planting. So a lot of their water, the reason that they're not at least equal to the municipal industrial is because they lease out a lot of the water, either to agriculture or to cities, primarily up in the Phoenix area. We have been, over the last few years, leaving about 17–18% of the CAP water. We just leave it in Lake Mead. We don't import it off the river. And that is to help to support the levels of Lake Mead, because as Jing said, those levels are what trigger shortages. So I'll talk a little bit more about that. And then other excess, very small amount. Primarily that's de minimis uses by golf courses and some of the mines that use that, things like that. So now let's talk about what's been going on. You've probably all read or heard on TV, watched on 60 Minutes last Sunday, all about the shortage that's happening on the Colorado River. Well, here's the primary reason, and this is just last year, this last winter, but you can kind of take that information and connect it back over the last 20 years. What we're seeing, and I want you to pay attention to this one, is that the 30-year average of water flowing into Lake Powell from snowmelt on the Rocky Mountains in Colorado, Utah, and Wyoming primarily, has averaged about 7.5 million acre feet a year. This year it was 1.85. And the reason is not because we're getting less snow. The reason is because it's hotter. And so when the snow falls in the Rockies, when you have higher temperatures, you have, first of all, some of the snow doesn't melt, it evaporates into the atmosphere. Secondly, you've got a longer growing season, so when that snow melts, you've already got plants starting to take it up because it's warmer, and also because we've had several years where there's been an actual snow drought. The ground is dry, and so the soils are absorbing a lot of the water. What happens with snow melt is it percolates down through the ground, it hits bedrock, and then it goes downhill by gravity and enters into the Colorado River. And so what we're seeing, and this is primarily a lot of people, most people think that it's because of climate change, we're seeing higher temperatures. So we're in a high temperature drought rather than in a precipitation drought. So what that means is that if this is a continuing thing, if this is the new normal because of climate change, we're never going to see as much runoff in the Colorado River as we saw, say, from 1980 to 2000. So overall, what we're seeing is less snow melt getting into Lake Powell, and Lake Powell is where we get most of our water from. And Lake Powell is on the Arizona-Utah border up in the northeast corner of the state. That is the collective reservoir for all the upper basin states. Upper basin states being Colorado, Utah, Wyoming, and New Mexico. They're the states that have tributaries that create the Colorado River, so to speak. The lower basin states, California, Arizona, and Nevada, they have equal priority for Colorado River water. And so the upper basin states have been slower to develop than the lower basin states, so they're not using all of their water, which is why, even though we've had this drought going on, we haven't been in a shortage for the last 20 years, because there's been sufficient amount of water going into Lake Powell, and that lake then releases the water through the Grand Canyon into Lake Mead. And Lake Mead, again, is where shortage declarations are dependent upon the levels in that reservoir. What you can see is this, as of yesterday, Lake Powell is only 30% full, and Lake Mead is only 35% full. And if you take the rest of the reservoirs along the Colorado system, which are primarily up in the Colorado and Utah areas, some in Wyoming, there's about 10 reservoirs, major reservoirs along the Colorado River. When you collectively put that all together, the whole system has about a third of capacity. What that means is that in 2000, when Lake Mead was full, it had more than 21 million acre feet in that. It's now got 7 million acre feet, roughly. Lake Powell, I mean, and Lake Mead, it was 25 million acre feet in Lake Mead, and now a little less than 9 million acre feet. So you can see that those reservoirs have gone down tremendously over the last 20 years. You've already seen this slide. I'll just point out a couple things. This basically says that the red area and the red area would take down to the red line, the DCP Tier 1. But because a bunch of stakeholders, agriculture, the state, municipalities, environmental groups, mines, all got together in 2019 and created what we call the Arizona Drought Contingency Plan, which was basically saying, we know if a Tier 1 hits, we're going to wipe out agriculture in Maricopa and Pinal County. It's not going to have any water. And so that orange in the bar there, that, or yellowish orange, whatever you would call that, mustard color, but a spicy mustard, not the normal mustard. That's about 100,000, a little over 100,000 acre feet that has been given up by others so that the farms will get some Colorado River water. Now they do still have access to their groundwater. They do still have access to the water that's leased to them by the tribes, because that's high priority water. Tribes and municipalities are our highest priority in the CAP system. Therefore, they're going to be the last ones to take a hit. So this, I want you to basically pay attention to the green part at the bottom. What it says, this is the probabilities that the Bureau of Reclamation every month looks out 2 years. It's called a 24-month study. And these are the probabilities of a shortage being declared, any kind of shortage being declared in the years to come, in 2022 through 2026. And what you see is that we are going into a Tier 1 shortage in 2022 because the Bureau of Reclamation says that Lake Mead will be below 1,075 feet on January 1st of next year. In August, they decided, okay, we're going to go into a Tier 1 shortage for 2022. 100% chance. A 75% chance that will be in 2023 in a Tier 1 shortage, but a 22% chance that will be in a Tier 2 shortage. A Tier 2 shortage hits when Lake Mead falls below 1,050 feet. It's right now at about 1,067 So there's another 17 feet. But as any reservoir that you, in the west, it's triangular in profile. So as you get lower and lower, a little bit of loss of water means much more height because it's not as broad. So we're very concerned about that, but as you see going forward, the chance of going into a tier 2 goes up above 60% in 2024, and worse than that in 2025 and 26, we get into that point where we might go into a tier 3 shortage. That is Lake Mead below 1,025 feet. Important to note that at that level, you can still flow water through Lake Mead, but that's only about 110 feet above what's called dead pool. And dead pool is where you're restricted to the run of the river because the level of Lake Mead is so low, it can't actually even be discharged from the dam to get into the lower Colorado where we take the water off. So that is a danger zone, and we never want to see that happen. But we don't, the probabilities are big because what we're seeing is these high temperatures, and we would have to have many years of above average inflow into Lake Powell before we started seeing this trend reduce and in fact reverse. So that's the area that we're very concerned about, is those increasing probabilities of shortage at the lower levels. So what happens? We have been, as Jin said, in a tier 0, that is between 1,090 feet and 1,075 feet for the last few years. And we were leaving 192,000 acre feet in Lake Mead, just not importing it off the river and leaving it in Lake Mead. We can do that easily without actually affecting what's going to the farms and agriculture. We've been doing that for the last few years, and they've been getting their full allocation of water. If we go into a tier 1, it's blue, we then lose access. So next year we'll lose access to 512,000 acre feet. That's roughly a third of what we deliver every year. So, and you can see as the level of Lake Mead goes lower, we go from 512 to 592, then to 640, and then to basically half of the water we would normally deliver will have to stay in Lake Mead. Now there are others who are participating in this leaving water in Lake Mead. Nevada is participating, and you can see that they've been leaving 8K or 8,000 acre feet, and in a tier 1 they'll leave 21,000. But you can also see that California doesn't participate until that less than 1,045 feet. So they're not giving up a drop. Now they're voluntarily leaving water in Lake Mead, which they can then access later. And they've started pulling out some of the stuff they've been voluntarily leaving, as opposed to this, which is mandatory. Once you leave the water in the river, you basically lose access to it. It stays with the river no matter what else happens. If you do it voluntarily, as CAP had been doing for many years, since 2015, you can keep access to that water. So if things get better, you can actually draw that water out and use it. So, but what we have, and also Mexico, as part of a minute to the agreement or an amendment to the treaty with Mexico, they've also been leaving extra water in Lake Mead, and they will continue to do that as we go through these deeper level of shortages. We're very fortunate to have Mexico involved because Mexico alone has the rights to 1.5 million acre feet of Colorado River water through the treaty. So for them to actually say we're going to leave some of that behind, that's a big deal. Because it's a national treaty which essentially takes precedence over any individual state treaty or an agreement with our own federal government. And so we're very fortunate that Mexico has been willing to come on board with that. We knew it was coming, so what do we do next? We've already been increasing water conservation or water left in Lake Mead voluntarily more than we've been required to do. And that's happening. California is participating in that. Mexico's been participating in that. We're preparing to move non-Colorado River waters through our system. The $4 billion that it costs to build the CAP canal system and pumping stations and everything, that's an asset that goes beyond just the value of delivering Colorado River water. If there are other sources available, say groundwater from western Arizona, or water that belongs to a city, and that they want groundwater that belongs to a city, and they want to use our system to deliver that water to their treatment plants, their drinking water treatment plants. Up until 2 years ago, we didn't have a mechanism to allow that to happen. But looking forward and saying there's going to be volumes of water, there's going to be capacity available in the system where we can now bring non-Colorado River water in if people are willing to pay for it. And that's all paid for by the people who are bringing it in. It's not paid for by the CEP customers. And we're looking into augmentation efforts. We've had a series of meetings with Mexico where we've identified some potential desalination options south of Rocky Point on the coast of Sonora. And we're also looking at exchanges. One of the ones you may have seen recently in the paper is that the Palo Verde Irrigation District in California has access to a lot of Colorado River water. We, along with the Southern Nevada Water Authority, the Metropolitan Water District of Southern California, and the federal government, are essentially paying them to leave some of their property fallow for 3 years in order to leave about 100,000 acre feet, or about 3 feet of height in Lake Mead. So again, it's not a permanent, we're not buying out their property or anything, but we're just paying them the cost of what they could probably produce and what effects the community might feel from less agricultural economic activity. So it's actually a very good deal for them, and it's a good deal for us, because that 3 feet may make the difference at some point in the future between one tier of shortage and the next. We're also right now involved in something we call the ARC, the Arizona Reconsultation Committee. The rules that govern how the Colorado River are operated go back to 1922. But in 2007, there were a set of rules set up that were agreed to by the 7 basin states and the federal government, so that how the water is operated between Lake Powell and Lake Mead would be to balance those two reservoirs. So to try and make sure that if Lake Powell is going down and Lake Mead is going up, less water would be released from Lake Powell to Lake Mead in order to shore up levels in Lake Powell. The levels in Lake Powell are very important because not only is that our source of water in the lower Colorado Basin, but it's also the hydropower from Glen Canyon Dam, which forms Lake Powell, is incredibly important to the entire Southwest. Hydropower is a wonderful type of renewable supply of energy. It's also immediately available. You don't have to restart a plant, heat up boilers, do the other kinds of things that you'd have to do at a coal-fired plant or even a gas-fired plant. What you have with hydropower is that they open the sluice, power is created and can go out on the grid right away. And so it's a very important energy source, energy supply. And if Lake Powell gets low enough, they're going to go down to where they are at minimum power pool, where anything below that, they can't even produce power. They can still release water, but they can't produce power. Same thing will happen to Lake Mead at those low levels. If we get to a point where we're at 1020 or below, the power from Hoover Dam is going to be much reduced as well. So this ARC committee is basically 40 different representatives from the legislature, from businesses, from cities, from environmental groups, from tribes. All of them get together, and we're basically saying the rules that govern the Colorado River now will expire at the end of 2026. It was designed that way so that it would require that everybody get together to say, what's going on now? What do we need to do over the next 20 years different from what we've been doing over the past 20 years? Those rules are going to expire whether we do anything or not. And so what we're doing is we're preparing in Arizona, in the same way we prepared for the Arizona Drought Contingency Plan, to say, what are the impacts of these shortages? How do we think in Arizona that the Colorado River should be operated? And can we come to some consensus among all these disparate elements in Arizona that this is what our negotiation package is going to be when we go into the negotiations with the other states and with the federal government. We want Arizona to be kind of on the same page, the people on the river, the people off the river, so we're all talking the same language, so that when we go into negotiations, we go in from an understanding of what Arizona wants to get out of those negotiations. So we're doing that now. The reconsultation will go through 2026. Presumably sometime in 2025 it will go to the federal government. It has to be passed by Congress and signed by the president. And in the meantime, we're doing all of this augmentation, extra conservation, reuse and recovery, all of the different methods, kind of an all-in as to how do we use less water in Arizona so we have less demand for Colorado River water, and how do we then take advantage of that? Is it to prop up Lake Mead further, or is it to store extra water in the state for the future? We all need to work on all of those different types of things. One of the things that's going to happen is potable recovery of wastewater, taking what Jing was talking about, putting water in the ground and then pumping it back up as groundwater. We may get to the point where we're treating it in a treatment plant, a wastewater treatment plant, and putting it directly back in the pipes, if we can resolve all the water quality issues. Finally, a lot of different places to get more information. Our website, we also have something we call Know Your Water News. It's updated on a regular, sometimes daily basis on what's going on. Our website is a great place. We have a lot of fact sheets and everything. You can also go to the Arizona Department of Water Resources, which is the state agency that governs water use, particularly groundwater use in Arizona, and the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation also has information on the Colorado River. So lots of opportunities for you to get more information about this and to educate yourself. I'm more than happy to answer any questions you might have when we get to that point if there's time. Thank you.
We'll make sure to jam pack a lot of speakers today.
Okay, so there is, because all of our speakers have got so much to offer, we're going to move on now directly to Barbara Hempel, who is the Marana Airport manager, and she's going to give us some updates on what's going on at the airport.
Thank you. There's a lot going on at the airport. We're really excited. I'm sorry you guys don't get to go there every single day like I do, because it is so much fun. The airport is actually probably bigger than you think. It's about 570 acres. What everybody sees is what's kind of along Arrow Valley Road. And this kind of shows you how deep the airport is and how much land it actually occupies. We have two runways. One is 6,900 feet long and 100 foot wide. The other one is smaller and is used to accommodate crosswinds. We have a terminal that is operated by our fixed base operator that has pilot resources, shower facilities, flight planning areas, and other resources for pilots who are coming into the airport. We have 6 large business hangars and 225 hangar units for smaller airplanes. And there's currently a 10 to 12 month wait to get a hangar at the airport. We do have plenty of tie downs, and there are some shade covers also that you could use. We're actually designated as one of 264 reliever airports in the United States. So we're considered a reliever airport for TUS, Tucson Airport. And it's a way to reduce congestion at passenger service airports. We last year had over 88,000 operations at the airport. A lot more airplanes going in and out than you would think. We have 251 base aircraft and 40 businesses at the airport. We also accept both federal and state grant money to do the capital projects that we have going on. Some of the big projects that we have going on right now, we're doing a lighting replacement where we're replacing all of the lights with LEDs, including the beacon. You might notice the beacon at night. It's a way of alerting pilots who are flying at night that there's an airport and that it's a general aviation airport. The big one is the air traffic control tower. We're really excited about this, and next week we're doing the kickoff for the siting study where they'll determine the best location to put the tower so that it provides the best visibility to the air traffic controllers. It's a 4-year program. This year we're doing the siting study, and we'll continue with the program until 2024 when it actually goes under construction. And then we have some less sexy things that are going on that are just infrastructure projects. We're going to be restructuring 2 of the major aprons, and then we're doing a safety project on the largest runway to provide a safety buffer between the runway and Avra Valley Road. This isn't, you're not supposed to read it. If you want a copy of it, you can. This is just to show how much money in grant projects we have planned between 2021 and 2026. It's a lot. It's a lot. And we have some private economic development on the airfield too. J.D. Russell, which is a local construction company, they're building an aircraft hangar. They actually cleared it, and we're just waiting for a final permit, and then they're going to start constructing the hangar. So we're excited about that. It is really interesting. If you ever have time and can just go out, and the public is allowed to wander the airport. It's not, we don't make a big deal about it because there are some safety and security issues, but you are allowed to go out there and walk around. You're permitted. And we have some really cool airplanes. There's an airplane in one of the hangars that's called Puss in Boots. It's an old World War II bomber, yeah, I think it's a bomber. But it was actually raced at the Reno Air Races. If you ever hear about Reno Air Races, it's a really cool airplane, and it raced at Reno, and it's in one of the hangars. And then the maintenance hangar, there's always tons of airplanes. I had to actually wait until I could take a picture where they were kind of pushed back. They had just moved 2 airplanes out of the front so that the picture wouldn't look as cluttered. But boy, jet traffic. One day last week we had 7 jets all on the ramp at the same time. I get excited about that. I look at every jet that lands at the airport as a business that's being supported in the region. So these airplanes come in all the time. They're going to Mirabel, they're going to Dove Mountain, they're visiting the community. This is a way of getting business into the region. And every time one of these aircraft lands, that's the way I visualize it. Okay, there's business being conducted here. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's people coming in on vacation or visiting. But it's a lot of fun out there, I'm telling you. We go out there and we just sit and watch some of the activity that's going on. One thing that we have going on a lot right now is parachute activity. The military conducts parachute training. Yesterday, they were actually training search and rescue, people how to rappel out of a helicopter with one of those baskets, there's a word for it, that they use if they have to do a recovery up in the mountains or lost hiker type stuff. They were doing that kind of practice at the airport yesterday. But ton of military training, civilian training too. You only live once. If you guys want to go out there, Marana Skydive, they do tandem jumps. You jump with a jump master, completely safe. But yeah, you only live once. You should try it. Or learn to fly an airplane. The flight activity out there is really picking up. I mean, it's really, it warms my heart to see all the young pilots. There was someone who came in yesterday to get a badge. And I said, I want to see her driver's license. Like after she left, I'm like, I want to see her driver's license. She looked like she is 12, and she's a flight instructor. I am getting old. But a lot of young people, and that's really heartening to me because we did go through a period like in the 2006 to 2010 where young people weren't entering the business. And there was projecting a lot of shortages of airline pilots, and now we're back, full circle with shortages again. And it's real heartening to see the youth coming out, and youth, they're in their early 20s. That's the definition of youth now. But they come out and they're actually instructing. So it's big. And there's always cool planes too. The one on the right, it's called a Waco. It doesn't pronounce the same as the city in Texas. That's Waco. This is a Waco. But anyway, again, it's like from the heyday of aviation. There's always really fun airplanes out there. The one on the left is a Stearman. It's a two-person open cockpit plane. Really cool. On the bottom, bush planes are like the latest thing. Everybody is getting bush planes with the real big tires where they can fly and land almost anywhere on dirt strips. So that's real popular in Arizona. If you have time, go to the Sky. I know everybody does already. I've already heard from everybody. You go to the Skyrider. But go sit at the cafeteria or sit in the cafe and sit along the window line, and you can watch all this stuff coming in. And I just think it's really interesting. There's one guy, and I've had to look up his airplane because I see him there probably 2 to 3 times a week. And I looked up, and he's from La Jolla Airport, which is about a 10-minute flight. So he just flies in from his home, flies in and has breakfast, and then flies back home. What a life! Like, that's like what a great, it just, I think it's awesome. And again, always something fun to see, always. I happened to get this picture about 2 weeks ago. We have these guys, they're called powered parachutes, and there happen to be 2 of them up flying around in a circle, and I managed to get the picture just right with both of them in the frame. The Maricopa County Sheriff's helicopter was in a couple weeks ago. Here's the little guys, the yellow plane, that's the one that comes from La Jolla Airport, but he was next to a bush plane. Same type of airplane, just you know, with different wheels on them. So anyway, I get excited about it out there. You should come out. You can get excited about it too. Every time you see somebody come in and land, that's business being done in our community. So that's all I have. But if you have any questions, feel free to ask.
All right, so we're going to run over just a little bit, but everybody just kind of hang tight. So last but not least is Kurt Woody going to give us our economic development update and what's happening, and maybe he'll share things that he's been keeping under his hat.
I can announce one today.
All right.
I teased you guys last month about some big announcements coming to Tangerine and I-10 and the Marana Center, so I can give you one of them today on the Marana Center. Let me get these passed out for you. Man, I shouldn't even do this update with all this water issue going on, because we're exploding right now, guys. It's crazy out there. Thanks. Good news is we're replacing ag with single-family residential homes, which uses less water. And the commercial side, the industrial side, that's being recruited and coming into the town, primarily logistics, distribution, so they're a low water user as well. So that'll help with that. Once you take ag off the water tables, then it definitely helps with what we got going on in Marana. You can see in the month, 159 single-family residential permits. We haven't had that in 15 years, maybe back to the early 2000s. Crazy month. We don't see that slowing down. You see where the numbers are, 79 up in the Gladden Farms area. They're out of lots. And Crown West, the master developer for Gladden Farms, had to buy 300 additional acres to put some homes on that acreage. The rest of the acreage is going to be used for commercial and industrial. The southern part, in the blue, which would be Saguaro Bloom and Lazy K, they're doing well as well. So a lot of these builders aren't waiting for people to walk in and put down their deposit and then build the home. They're just going ahead and taking out 50 permits and building the homes because they know people are going to walk in the next day and buy it. So they're just going right on ahead and building what would be considered spec, and it's sold the next day. some of these people that are buying their homes up in the Glen Farms area, well, sorrel bloom too. When the day they sign the paper to buy the home, by the time it's built, it's worth $20,000 more than what they paid for it, right?
Yes.
It's crazy.
Absolutely, it is.
Yeah, and with the inventory so low right now, I think we're less than a month residential real estate can probably confirm that.
It's
Less than a month, and we typically like about 5-6 months of inventory.
Yeah.
So that's what's driving those prices and driving that new home demand right now. Okay, so just a quick report on the commercial/industrial side. I teased you last month with stay tuned, we've got some big announcements coming. One of the big announcements for the Miranda Center, raise your hand if you want to see furniture store in Miranda. No, you don't? Okay, thank you. American Furniture out of Phoenix, are you familiar with them? They're going to go at the Miranda Center. About 240,000 square feet of warehouse and showroom. They are in for pre-application right now. Once they complete their plans, they'll go to permitting. They're going to be between Bill Luke dealership on the corner at Twin Peaks and Miranda Center Boulevard and the Premium Outlet Mall. So they'll be in that site right there. Bill Luke is already in for permitting. They should break ground probably within the next 4 to 6 months. So Miranda Center's going. Now, the really big announcement for the Miranda Center is the one I still have to tease you with, so you got to keep coming back every month. But they're in site analysis right now, about 35 acres. Huge announcement. Stay tuned. We'll get that to you as soon as we can. The master developer is in an NDA with the ownership, and so nobody can talk about it until they get the release to do so. But they are in escrow, so that's good news. I'm also going to tease you with Tangerine and I-10. Of that 300 acres that Crown West purchased, there's already 170, 180 acres of that. One is already closed escrow, and the other one is in escrow right now. Stay tuned, that is on the industrial side. So I'll talk about it when I can. I do this to you every month. I know you guys hate me for it, but are we going dark in November and December?
Yes.
Oh, so January, I may have some great news for you guys. You got to come back in January. All right, any questions?
And so I think let's open it up too for questions for any of the speakers. Take just a few minutes of your time, get you out of here in 7 minutes or so. I don't need to leave now, but if we can do that, yeah, sounds good.
Anybody got any questions they have a burning desire to ask?
I have a question for the CAP guy. I'm sorry, for Mitch. I'm sorry. And when or if Lake Powell or Lake Mead were at 100%, or what is the highest that they've been in recent history?
In recent history, in 2020, in 2000, they were at 88 and 95% full.
Oh.
And ever since then, they've kind of gone downhill. There have been some winters, like the winter of 2011, where it was 240% of the normal runoff into Lake Powell. And so Lake Mead got a bunch of water, 12 million acre feet instead of the normal 8.25, and went up by 50 feet. But it's basically been a long, drawn out, going down until the last few years. We've been balancing it with what we've been leaving.
So 2000 or kind of 2011, those were kind of higher years, and then since 2011,
we've had only, in the last 20 years, we've had only 4 years where the runoff has been higher than the 30-year average. So it hasn't been a fun time.
What do those conversations for the agriculture industry look like? So are they purchasing that leased water from the indigenous people, or?
What's been happening with agriculture is they've for a long time been leasing water from the Native Americans, primarily from Gila River Indian community, the San Carlos Apache, and the Ak-Chin. And so they've been leasing this water. So and the money that then goes to the tribes has been helping the tribes with their own water infrastructure, or with economic development of some kind. What we've done in order to mitigate this latest is they were getting that anyway. So on top of that, what we did is made a deal with, for instance, the Metro Water Company and with Tucson Water to, instead of recharging water down here, they're providing it to the farms, and then the state is then providing them with credits for the groundwater that the farms don't have to pump. So there's two different types of recharge projects. The one that most people are familiar with is a basin that you put water in, and it's built in an area where the geology allows the water to percolate down to the groundwater very quickly. Lots of sands and gravels. The other one is called a groundwater savings facility. What that means is an entity purchases CAP water, provides it to an agricultural district, for instance, and instead of pumping water, groundwater, they use that water. But when you recharge in a basin, you get from the state what's called long-term storage credits. And that means that at some time in the future, you can recover that groundwater. And it doesn't have to be done right there where it's recharged. It can be done anywhere within your service area. For a groundwater savings facility, same thing. The groundwater that's not pumped is then essentially, those credits are given to the entity that purchases CAP water. So, for instance, BKW Farms, which is all around here, they use water from Metro Water, from Tucson Water. Do they use any Marana water? I don't know. They do. They haven't had to pump any groundwater for years, for decades now, because they're using this excess CAP water that the cities have chosen to provide to them, and then the cities then, out of that deal, they get groundwater credits that they can recover somewhere else. And as a result, BKW Farms is not being hit with the same kind of reductions that all of our agricultural customers in Pinal and Maricopa County are, because they are using city water, which is our highest priority water. It's not going to be cut until a Tier 3 shortage. So they're in good shape. But that's what we've been doing, is working with other customers to make more water available to the farms. So about a third of the water that would normally get without a Tier 1 shortage, they're going to get next year because of these individual contractors that are making that water available.
Let me ask this question. From a CAP's perspective, what would you think the best message us as the local water providers? What kind of message should we, send out to our?
I think there's kind of a dual message. One is that we've been preparing for this for a long time. The state has stored 4.5 million acre-feet of CAP water in the ground that at the time, when the time comes, should cities be cut back because of shortage, that water can be recovered and delivered to the cities by the state. And that's what it's there for. It's there for an emergency supply or a backup supply to when the water's not flowing through the CAP canal. So the message is we've been preparing for a long time for these shortages. And a lot of what's been done over the last 15 years or so is really in preparation for knowing that the Colorado River eventually was going to be over-allocated. And it was going to, we had to prepare for a dry day. That's the first message, is that we've been preparing for a long time, so we're not going into this, it's not a surprise. We've already been preparing. The second message is that conservation, even individual conservation, is always going to be critical. We're very fortunate here in this region that conservation ethic is widespread. You may be asked to do more in the future. Each of the water providers has what's called a drought response plan, and when we get to a bad enough shortage, those response plans may mandate some of the conservation things that you now do voluntarily. But conservation can't solve the problems. It's not going to add water to the Colorado River. The conservation in this region is always going to be important because it's what individuals do that really provides for the community that cushion. That's so important. That means that if a community here doesn't have to use its entire CAP allotment to deliver water, that whatever they get extra can be stored for the future underground and then recovered as Jing was talking about, that it will be recovered in the future through their NERDS project. But And so I would say the other message is that keep doing what you're doing, and remember that we're all living in a desert, and whether the Colorado River is there or not, every drop that you save is a drop that stays in the ground right now, and might be there when you need it in the future. So, but I guess there's a third message. Municipalities and tribes are CAP's highest priorities. They're going to be the last ones to take a cut, and they're going to be the ones that take the smallest cut in proportion. You're not going to be like agriculture where all of a sudden your water's all gone. Not unless Lake Mead goes to Deadpool and we can't get water out of the Colorado River. So.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Rebecca. Oh, Rebecca and then Barbara.
Well, actually, this was Barbara over Kurt, and I'm going to call it the wrong thing, but what's going on with the development zone outside the airport fence or
Say that again, sorry?
the development zone is going on outside the fence at Marana Airport.
Yes, so J.D. Russell that Barbara mentioned is building their corporate jet hangar. They will be putting plans in for their national headquarters outside the fence on Air Commerce Way. About a little over 4 acres they purchased from us to do so. They've got 5 manufacturing plants across the country. That's why they fly out of our airport with their jet. So now they'll have their own personal hangar, and they can walk right across the street from their headquarters to hop on their plane.
And what's the size of that outside the fence acres?
So we've got about 55 acres left that we're heavily promoting. And it does not have to be aviation related outside the fence. So it can be any kind of business out there. Within reason. I mean, there's FAA regulations and those type of things, but heights.
When can I buy a sofa?
Let's see. Well, you can go up to Phoenix and buy it now. And have them shipped.
Do you know what the time frame is?
Sure. So they're in pre-app right now. Plans will probably take, I've seen the site plan, looks good. I'd say let's go 6 months on developing the plans, get it into permitting, take, let's say, they're not complicated buildings, so maybe a month to 2 months on permitting at the most, and then break ground. So they're very very aggressive, and they're moving forward in their timeline.
Excellent.
It's a good addition. We need another furniture opportunity here.
Kurt, did they already break ground out at the Amazon warehouse?
Yes, they're doing the civil work right now. So if you drive by that corner at Ida and Silverbell, you'll see that it's all been bladed off and they're starting their civil. And the piece just north of that is an apartment complex, and it's a little bit farther along.
Okay. Great. Well, everyone, thank you so much. Like Kurt said, we do go dark in November and December with the holidays. So we'll be back in the January at the usual time. You'll be getting your emails with updates. And then I just have one more thing. If there's any of the realtors in the room, if you could kind of come up front once we close, because we want to do a photo op with you. So, and then Amanda, is there anything you wanted to add?
I think, that this program, but we do have several other chamber programs that's happening in the month of November and December. So please check those out. Marana Mornings at the Highlands Stuff Mountain, the breakfast event we do is Wednesday next week. It comes so quickly because next week is already next month. So November next week. Have a great day, guys. Thanks for staying a little bit extra for us today. We had so many speakers.